Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Want to remind you to nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. We are live at the Road Home. It's the annual Mediathon. We're raising money for a great cause. We're helping families get on the road home. Of course, not just shelter, but opportunities to put the wheels back on, or to get back on their feet, I should say. And we've been doing this for many, many years, going back to the 90s or I guess early 2000s as a station. I believe this is my 23rd year as being a part of it, and it's amazing. And we couldn't do it without the help of all our generous listeners. So theroadhome.org, click on the donate tab, or call 801-819-7600. All right, it's time to talk some University of Utah sports with the man himself. Go ahead, Christian.
Covering the Utes better than anyone else, this is Ute Insider Steve Bartle of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Howdy, Steve. How are you?
Doing okay, Jake. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing great, Steve. We're here at the Road Home, and this is always a highlight of every year, helping folks out, and particularly at this shelter. And I know you have a young family. They help a lot of young families. 200 kids used the shelter last night. So it's always great to see the generosity of our listeners, and hopefully we're making a little bit of a difference. So to specifically answer your question, I'm doing great. But happy holidays to you. How are you? Your family ready for the big event?
Yeah, man. It's always a good time, and you know, I've worked the Road Home and that a couple times in my lifetime, and it's really cool to see the generosity of so many people. And I think being here in Utah, it's one of the unique characteristics of our state, and so it's always cool to see that come to light around this time. And so, like, with my family, we're doing good, man. Miles is now, he's almost 3 and starting to grasp like what is actually going on, and so we're excited. We're pretty excited for this Christmas for sure.
Oh, yeah. When the 3-year-old, they get into the ripping into the presents phase, like really getting after it. That's good times. All right, Steve, I'm just curious for your read on, now we've heard from Coach Whitt. We've played some of the sound on the show. I'm curious for your read on the entire situation.
Yeah, obviously, there's still a lot that feels like it's not been answered yet. There's still questions that have not been answered, but in talking with Coach Whittingham last night at his media availability, he emphasized the point that now is the right time for a change to happen, and I believe him. I believe he truly feels that. I believe that he knows that this is, a really good situation for Morgan to come into and to help him, get off to a good start in his career. But just with the whole entire situation, it feels like there's a lot of uncertainties, a lot of things that, like I said, things haven't been answered. And, with Kyle Whittingham, we're talking about a living legend, right? Like, that's the thing we're talking about with him is we're one of the top 10 coaches in the country, when he's on duty. And, for it to be, a Friday evening news dump with, the news of him stepping down and all of that, it just feels like there's a lot not being done to really send off a living legend the right way. And so, I'm sure that we'll get more over the next couple of weeks. We know that we're going to have a January 6th press conference to introduce Morgan Scalley, but I really hope that Utah takes the time to send Kyle Whittingham off the right way, and I'm sure that they will do that. I'm sure that they're putting together things. But, yeah, certainly an interesting time. And, it's interesting. I've had a lot of conversations with people that have, been on the beat and that. And the belief coming off of the Kansas game was that, this was retirement. This was it. Like, we were all convinced that he was set to retire. And then, as we got into the off season, obviously that all changed a week after or so. The season ended. Everything started to shift towards, Kyle wants to run it back now. And so I'm of the thinking that Kyle, doesn't fully know exactly what he wants to do just yet. And I think for him to step down, and he mentioned this last night, to step down, to step away, and to take time to fully, come to terms with, whatever route he wants to go, I think is going to be the smart move for him. So that's going to be his plan over the next month, is taking time to just digest, his future and what it looks like. So we got some answers on some things, but still a lot to be answered with this whole situation.
Well, that is true. And I said this earlier in the show. I thought Whit put on a PR masterclass yesterday. I thought all his comments were super classy. I thought he told the story without, I'm sure he did not want to get into the details. I'm sure Utah didn't want him to get into the details either. And he was able to get the message out there and answer questions without lying, which I get frustrated with. Like, I get it. You can't tell us every little thing, but that doesn't mean you have to lie about it, right? And he was honest. But one question, and you're talking about questions that didn't get answered, I still am not convinced that if Coach Whit alone were to make this decision, that this was the decision they would arrive at. Do you have any take on that? If it really was Whit and Whit's decision alone, whether or not this would be the outcome that we're at?
Yeah, I think, again, it gets back to doing, what Kyle Whittingham has said time and time again, is doing what's best for the university. And the only person that will, let's just say this, Kyle Whittingham is the most powerful person up there, at the University of Utah, right? With what he's done over the last 21 years, the economic benefit that he's provided the university because of the success of his football program, nobody in their right mind is going to tell Kyle Whittingham to leave. Right? I don't think anyways. That's my take on it. But I do think, there was probably some indications. There was probably talk about, hey, Morgan Scally, there's a real possibility that if we all run it back, that, Morgan, in his career, he wants to take that next step. He wants to be a head coach. He's already he's a year older than Kyle Whittingham was when Kyle took over the Utah job from Urban. Morgan is 46. Kyle was 45 when he took over. So the clock is ticking for Morgan, and you don't blame Morgan for wanting to ascend to that job, to that role. And I think ultimately that this was the decision. Was Kyle, completely ready to let go? I don't know, but I think at the end of the day, I think Kyle doing what's best for the program and handing the reins over to Morgan Scally is ultimately what influenced his decision more than anything else. And whether he was forced into that, I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. But ultimately, I think that is at the core of what this whole decision and what this whole situation is about.
What do you think Morgan will do differently than Whit? It's for the bulk of how this program operates, for the majority of how things go and what they do, it's going to look the same. I wouldn't be surprised if there are tweaks with, the offense and sort of the mindset and what they look to accomplish on a week-in, week-out basis. From what I've gathered, I know that Morgan believes in, having I don't want to say a high-octane offense, but certainly an offense that is more willing to throw the ball around because it benefits, you on the recruiting trail. Players, regardless of whether you're offense or defense, they like to see an offense that can move the ball effectively. And so I think that is going to be an interesting stamp on
on the offense when he takes over? Is that what we actually see? I think I don't want to say maybe the biggest difference, but I do know that, he's a big focus of him is going to be beefing up the recruiting and making sure that they have a lot of people contributing to the recruiting efforts up there at the University of Utah. I think that's going to be a big priority for him. And so, for the most part, it's going to remain the same, the day in, day out operation. But I do think there are going to be things that we see that we notice over the course of time that will reflect on Scally and this being his program when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to the offense, when it comes to some of these other things. I do think we'll see little differences here and there as he begins to take over here.
Any idea who the next defensive coordinator is going to be?
Man, he's got 4 great options, right now serving under him on that defensive side of the ball with Colton Swan, Sharif Shaw, Lewis Powell, Luther Ellis. You really can't go wrong with any one of those guys. If I had to pick, a favorite where I was leaning on who would be the guy to emerge from that 4, I'd probably lean Colton Swan. I think he's the guy that, he's done a fantastic job recruiting to that linebacker position. He has experience as a defensive coordinator, in his time up at Weber State under Jay Hill. And, I know that Colton Swan has gotten a lot of interest from programs outside of Utah as well. So I would look at Swan first, but, man, I would be if Shaw is up for it, if he wants to take that role, I think Shaw would be tremendous as a defensive coordinator. And Lewis Powell as well, with just what he does recruiting and all that he does there for Utah. Again, he's got 4 great options in the building already. And that's going to be a tough call, but I would lean towards Swan emerging as the guy to become defensive coordinator.
Granted, it would be speculation, Steve, but do you have any idea how much dough Utah spent on the football team this year, NIL and from the university?
What was it? About $18 million.
Okay.
Altogether, $18 million.
How much do they want that to go up? Or how much does that have the ability to go up, do you think, if the private equity thing works out?
Yeah, it's going to go up. It's going to go up pretty significantly. I would anticipate it getting up to 25, 26, 27 million, just kind of depending on, when this private equity deal is first completed. And, with that private equity deal, I think it's important for people to understand, that all of that money is not necessarily going to NIL, right? That serves a much larger cause for the University of Utah than just, equipping your rosters with good players. That's going to be a big thing. But I do think what it does is, it's going to free up and create opportunities because you're partnering with Otro Capital, who is going to help you set up these corporate sponsorships, which potentially increases your NIL opportunities. And I think that's where kind of the real interesting part of that PE deal comes, is the partnership with Otro and what it means for that. So I think Utah's, what they'll be able to do, funding the roster, I think it's going to see a significant boost once they get that deal completed and move forward with everything in place.
So they're not quite to the 20 yet, and they'll get to the 20 with this deal now.
Yeah, so they had the full $20.5 million, but not all $20.5 million went to football. It's split up between, men's basketball and all the other sports. So I think when it comes to the rev share portion, they fulfilled that full $20.5, but only, I think it was $14 million went to football, and then the rest was covered by NIL.
Okay. All right. Well, it's an interesting world where we find ourselves, Steve. Any other news we need to know getting ready for the Vegas Bowl?
Man, just, more to come, obviously. It'll be interesting to get down to Vegas to get a feel for where the team is at. The team players are going to go home for Christmas, and then they'll fly directly to Las Vegas and get ready for the bowl game down there. But outside of that, we've got Utah basketball tomorrow night. Alex Jensen and the Running Utes taking on Eastern Washington. Obviously, with the loss last week to Mississippi State, Utah looking to get back in the win column tomorrow night. But yeah, man, that's about it on the Utah front. Pretty quiet month of December so far.
Yeah, right. I mean, you've hardly worked at all. I'm jealous.
Barely.
He is Steve Bartle. He covers the Utes for KSLSports.com. He's been very busy, and you should follow all of his work to stay up to date on the latest with all the Bartle bombs that have been dropping. You got to be following Steve. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate all you do.
Appreciate you, Jake.
There you go. Steve Bartle covers the Utes for KSLSports.com, and he's kind enough to jump on with us on Fridays. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson
1, 2, 3, move it.
on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. No Ben today, but we are live from the road home. Call and donate, 801-819-7300, 801-819-7300. Or you can go online to theroadhome.org and click on the Donate tab and help us out. Help us help families. And we love the Road Home. We've been doing this for a very, very long time. If you're looking for a really grassroots right there, donating to folks who are solving the problem, the Road Home is just an unbelievable cause. And we appreciate all our listeners who have donated so far. Christian, we are currently in third place of all the radio stations and TV stations for that matter. We are currently in third. Our listeners have donated $54,939 thus far, which is a great number that we can do better because we are not far behind our friends at FM 100. And I'll be darned if I'm going to let Rusty Keys brag about raising more money than the Zone listeners all year long. So we need you. We've got to move past FM 100, and then we can focus our eyes on X96 and bringing them in. So donate now, 801-819-7300, or simply go online to theroadhome.org/donate and help us out. Theroadhome.org/donate, or really just theroadhome.org, and then on the top of the page there's a donate tab. You just hit on that thing and it makes it super easy. And honestly, if you go to the overall scoreboard, the amount raised for the Mediathon so far, they have a rotating banner of shout outs for donations. So thanks to everybody who's donating. Theroadhome.org overall, with matches and the amount raised and all the stations and TV and everything there, we've raised so far a total of $669,000, which is what an amazing number, and we can still do more. So help, please, 801-819-7300 or theroadhome.org to donate. The Jazz, Christian, how did DJ put it earlier? A clutch loss. They lose to the Lakers. 143 to 135. Give me your overall take on that game.
No, he's pretty good.
You're going with Keontae. That's the
pretty
headliner
much.
for you?
I mean, the Lakers were without Austin Reeves, right? The Jazz were without Lauri Markkanen. But I think I do like the way DJ put it. Clutch loss. That's what you want to see this year, as far as threading the needle of trying and losing. You want to see these competitive games, but if you want them to keep the pick, the L is ultimately what matters at the end of the day, I guess. But it's 3 straight games now for Keontae George with over 30 points, and it looks like he's the real deal. You've got Will Hardy making all the producers scramble for the dump button in his post-game press conferences, and it's clear that he's taken a big step forward. And I think the big one last night is he did it without Lauri, right?
Well, I think he's having a great year. And honestly, he does it so often that it's almost not the big story, right? And that's the big thing with him is consistency. And certainly nobody on this show is surprised that he had 34 and 8 last night. So I like the direction you went with Keontae being the story last night. I also thought Ace Bailey was really good, even though statistically he was not the headliner. he still does stuff every game that's like, okay, I can see what he's all about. But I'm glad you talked about the Jazz, because my whole takeaway last night really had to do with the Lakers. And how just happy I am that I don't have to watch the Lakers every single night. I mean, I'm just grateful. The whining and complaining and Luka Doncic, I don't know. I know I'm in the minority here, but I do not like watching him play basketball. I don't like the baiting. I don't like the dribbling. I don't like the stupid shots. I mean, just shameless stuff. What was he from 3 to last night? I know you look at his stat sheet and you're like, whoa, 45 points. But took 12 threes, made 4 of them, which is all right. But took 28 shots. He's taken 28 shots on a team with LeBron James, which is hilarious. I know people look at the assist numbers, but it's the same thing with Russell Westbrook and James Harden. They've turned the assist into a selfish stat. And I just cannot stand watching Luka Doncic play. And as a result, cannot stand watching the Lakers play. And honestly, LeBron, who had 28 and 10 last night, you look at his stat sheet and you go, okay, that's all right. Except for he did most of that damage when Luka was off the floor. So he's been relegated to the role of, okay, when Luka's not playing, I can finally play again. And he's shooting so poorly from 3, the Jazz didn't even guard him. Did you notice that, Christian?
Yeah, they were backing off of him.
They didn't even guard him. They didn't guard him for a foul line shot, which he actually made. But I was thinking, like, wow, I mean, that is taking gapping
Finished
LeBron.
0 of 5.
Yeah, that's taking gapping LeBron to a new extreme. But I don't know. I have a hard time with that brand of basketball. They don't play any defense. And you know what's hilarious is the counter argument to that, like, oh, the Lakers don't play any defense. Well, they were without DeAndre Ayton last night, which is hilarious.
And Austin Reeves, right? They're 2 best defenders,
right? Which is so sad. No, there's no way that Austin Reeves.
I'm being sarcastic.
Okay,
this is funny though, because filling in on DJ and PK, I do the What Is Trending segment, looking for stories every morning. There was a story that ESPN put out that JJ Redick had a big team meeting with the players about how they need to all play better defensively, and Luka took it as a calling for the star players to lead the charge and play better defensively. And then the Jazz just scored the most points on the Lakers that anybody has all season. So clearly the meeting didn't do anything.
No, I mean, would you expect it to do anything? I mean, I don't think the sommelier knows what he's doing. I don't think JJ Redick is any sort of master. Let me put it this way: he's no Phil Jackson, and Luka's a little more motivated this year. There's no doubt. He's not the slimmest player I've ever seen in my life, but he's not bloated Luka like we saw last year. But still, if you look at the MO of him and his behavior in Dallas, Luka's not going to do anything different. Luka's going to do his own thing. I mean, Dallas couldn't even get him to lay off the vape. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to sit him down and say, hey, we need more defensively, and he's going to go out there like Donovan Mitchell always used to and say, wow, it's really up to us to send a defensive message to the rest of the team. The star players, they have to set it up. And then what happens? The same stuff. I mean, you
think that'll change in playoffs at all or no?
No, why would it? Luka, first of all, Luka is really skilled. There's no doubt about it. He is a super skilled player, but he's not good. He's not elite because of his athleticism. I mean, did you see him? Whose shot did he try to block last night, Christian? I don't know if you remember. It was in the first half, and it ended up being a foul because he did not foul. Somebody else fouled, but Luka jumped to kind of try and challenge the shot.
Like 4 inches off the ground.
Maybe 4 inches off the ground. I mean, I tell you what, that was like watching David James jump. No offense, David James, but I was watching the game with him, and we were making jokes about that. He is not athletic, right? So if he's going to play defense, that's going to require something, Christian, effort. And I don't think Luka really is effort guy. I don't. I mean, even his offensive skill is not effort offensive skill. He's not, he can get heavy and still be an all-star because he's not really reliant on being more athletic than the guy across the way from him. LeBron has always been reliant on being the size of Carl, moves like John. That's LeBron and his advantage in the NBA, and to his credit, he's stayed healthy and kept that physical advantage for his entire career. But Nikola Jokic, Christian, is that guy dominating the NBA because he's some sort of superb athlete? No, it's because he's super skilled. I'd put Luka in the category of Jokic. So for either of those players, really, but especially Luka, if he's going to be have any sort of effect defensively, he's going to have to pour it on with effort, and I just don't see that. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah,
do you think it'll happen?
No, I just wonder because you wonder if it's going to click, and they talk about having these meetings, right? But then when you get in such a habit of a long 82-game season, I know Luka's obviously not going to play all 82 games. Nobody does, right? But when you get into such a habit of not playing defense in the regular season, I do have a hard time thinking that that's just a switch that can flip for the playoffs. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I do think that the Lakers Luka is going to be a little bit different than what we saw in Dallas. I'd like to think so. I don't know.
They won't. Well, the problem is entitlement, and
it hasn't been, I guess, and it's already been almost a year. So
yeah, it's you're on your best behavior when you first get the job, and then it's all downhill from there. You know what I mean? Next thing you know, you're taking a nap in the office. Luka's at is most motivated right now, and he's still not playing defense. I remember the media day and for the Jazz, and this would have to be Donovan's, I don't know, like fourth year. And he sits down in front of us, and he's like, oh, man, all offseason I've gotten in shape. I'm going to play defense. We're really going to set a defensive tone. I'm going to be I want to take the other team's best player, all this stuff. And then guess how long that lasted?
Like 2 or 3 games, probably.
Not even 2 or 3 games. First game of the year. I mean, and it's in my opinion, an entitlement thing, and that's really hard to reel back in. And probably a big part of the reason why Will Hardy wants to get Keontae George really grinding before Keontae develops those bad habits. I know all that stuff sounds super cliche, but it's a real thing. It's a deal. You don't want those bad habits. Absolutely not. So, yeah, good for Keontae George. For pouring it on defensively, and I don't see that changing anytime soon from Luka Doncic. We'll wrap things up from the road home coming up next, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.